What's the ROI on 3,000 euros invested for 8 figures? It's insane. Hey, to be honest, the CFA made me over 8 figures. I'll just say it. I'm the living example that a program can change everything in your life.
Yeah, you're using your knowledge and your skill set to help others and not just help yourself and your family, right? That's special. It's one of the best returns I've ever had, right? On an investment. And so far in just 2 months, I completed all the trainings. I learned multiple new investment strategies. I put them to action and I've already recouped my initial costs. I want to build skills that I can rely on for the rest of my life. And that's the reason why I joined Decentralized Masters. The mentors here, the company execs like yourself, you're all invested in our future and our learning. I don't think there's any other program out there that is doing this. And so 100% join the program, trust your gut and go with it.
Here we go. All right. So Anil, Tan here, as everyone knows, for the Decentralized Masters community. So I wanted to, have a quick interview with you because our Indian community here is growing a lot. You're part of, the members who came in recently, and I think we probably have over like 50 plus now. And that honestly makes me very happy. And like many of our Indian members, you're highly accomplished. We have to say we have a pretty good brain. God has gifted us with a pretty good brain. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. You're, if I'm not mistaken, an MD, an MBA, and someone I would say who's very, well thought. Like you don't just jump into things without doing your homework, I would say. And actually, I remember it took you some time before joining, right? You were
Right.
considering it. You researched our company a lot. Even I think you researched me as a person quite a bit. And then eventually you decided to pull the trigger. One day, I think you sent me a message on LinkedIn and you said, "Tan, I'm ready. Let's go. Like I want to do it."
Yeah, that's right.
So that's why I wanted to bring this conversation to you, because if you're like most of our Indian community and the people who might be considering, joining us, it means that you're smart with your money, because that's what we are. You're cautious, because that's part probably of our culture. We're going to talk about that. And you don't take big decisions lightly. And that's a good thing, right? So my first question is very simple, is like, can you tell us a bit more about yourself, maybe your story?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tan. So as you mentioned, I'm a psychiatrist and physician executive. I've spent my career helping people, but I reached a point very early in my clinical career where I realized that I was trading essentially my most precious asset, time, for money. And I wanted to basically get to a point of obtaining financial independence so I can work because I wanted to, not because I had to. So I could be present with my kids in a way that I didn't always have growing up myself. And so the one thing that's very common within physicians specifically is medical school. You learn one thing exceptionally well, clinical medicine, but it comes at the cost of everything else. You can kind of develop tunnel vision, and by the time you graduate, you find yourself almost 30 years old with no real idea of what to do with your money. And physicians in particular are notorious for this. We're trained to treat people but not to invest, not to build wealth or create any financial freedom. So that's part of why I went back to business school, to not only understand healthcare as a business and elevate myself, but also become financially literate and learn how to invest wisely. And I think once I had that foundation, I realized that there's no better opportunity than crypto and decentralized finance.
Okay, amazing. I think this concerns a lot of people because we're very hardworking. In our culture, did you also have you either become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer?
Right, exactly. That's like those are the three buckets that you could be
Right.
a, yeah.
When I became a banker, I barely, made it. They were like, okay, fine. You speak Hindi, by the way?
Yeah, Hindi Urdu, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I grew up in France. Like my dad, for some reason, Punjabi dad. So at home, like no one spoke French. I don't know why. Like he had the option to go Canada, USA, UK, Australia, like everyone else. He decided to go to France. Like, why? No one went there. So I had no Indian friends. But at home, we were very, cultural. Like, मैं हिंदी बोलता हूँ. I used to spend like every summer of my life until my first 18 years, 2 months at my Nana Nani's in Chandigarh in India. So yeah, I resonate with the culture. I understand it 100%.
Yeah,
So
right.
the question with this, where I'm going with this is like, we are known to be very careful with money. And I almost want to say, except the smart ones, right? Who understand that there's a little bit of risk involved to actually get further in life. So what helped you see that deciding to work with DM was a smart decision?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Caution is sort of in my DNA, right? I think that, but also I think recognizing when an opportunity is too good to ignore is also part of my DNA. I think so. With your program, when I looked at it, I saw that you weren't selling hype, that you were actually delivering meaningful and quality education. And I think that is, that is the crux of like what I was looking for. I wanted a company to be able to give me tools, strategies, and provide mentorship to make informed decisions, because I'm generally a new investor. I started a little bit in the stock market, but essentially have earned money in the last 5 years working as a clinical psychiatrist. But now I needed to kind of put my money to work, and I like the fact that crypto is a 24/7 market. It kind of works better with my schedule, if you will. But I think that with this company, I want to build skills that I can rely on for the rest of my life, and that's the reason why I joined Decentralized Masters.
Okay, so what changed between, there was a maybe what 1 month gap where you were thinking about it, like, but no one really thinks about it. It doesn't exist. Like, is there a moment where you first spoke to Robert on my team, I think, and then is there a moment you just sat like this and you were thinking about it? I don't think so, right? You actually did some research, or you I don't know, like until the point you were like comfortable and you were like, okay, now I'm not going to continue researching, I'm actually going to do it. So
Yeah.
what did you see?
Yeah, look, I took my time, obviously. I looked at different programs and services out there, and what actually really stood out to me was that you, Tan, actually you answered every question I had. You never pushed. You just stayed on the sidelines supporting me until I was ready, and that was special, because if it was a company that was pressuring me to sign up or something like that, that would be a red flag for me. But you were on the sidelines, ready to help if I wanted it, right? And so eventually I realized there's a point, like, where more research just becomes an excuse to delay action, right? And for me, I'm kind of like somebody who, I like to take advantage of opportunities that exist. Only about, what I think the last data I saw was that 10% of people, 10% of Americans own crypto. It's still very early, and I knew I wanted to position myself before the crowds, essentially, and I had to start now. So there was a kind of a moment of clarity I had after reflecting a little bit, and after doing some research. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing was just, you're the reason why I joined the program, because I think you were very generous with your time, and you were able to answer my questions and not pressure me in any way. So that's what was special for me.
Okay, very interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me that. I might answer my LinkedIn messages a bit more then. So, now that you're inside, because of course, most people tell me if I had known, I would have joined like way earlier. So now that you're inside, okay, is there something that if you knew that this is what you're gonna get or something, you would have pulled the trigger immediately?
I mean, I think that for me in particular, it's also about how much time you can invest in learning, right? And so for me, it was that I didn't expect it to be extremely well organized in the way the content was created. I'll talk about that in a bit. But I think that timing is everything. You have to be ready mentally, and also be able to put in some time to learn. And so for me, I was still coming off the back end of my last semester of the MBA, and so I wanted to finish that before I had some clarity on and had more bandwidth to be able to learn. But yeah, so I think being inside the program, I think the surprise was how well organized the content was.
Okay, cool. Did that help you remove some of that fear? Maybe, of like, it's a lot of money. Like, we're the Harvard of crypto. Like, we're expensive, and yeah, like, I get that. But do you think like, there was some fear to overcome at some point?
I mean, look, I think in order to gain something, you have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And for me, you have to have some level of risk appetite. And again, it's timing. I wasn't as fearful after I entered, because I was at that point, right?
I'll speak for myself. Like, you know what? I'm probably the prime example of someone who's made tenfold over a program. I invested in the CFA program when I was 21. It was €1,000 back then for me, which was enormous. I was broke. I had nothing. Then it was three in a row, three levels in a row. I just, for some reason, I decided to do it all. And so I had to pay 1,000 euros and then 1,000 euros and 1,000 euros, which is, it was a lot, right? I don't come from a rich family. So what happened then is I actually invested even more money to get a mentor. Okay. Because in that program, I felt I had like maybe 30 big books like this to learn with like thousands of formulas. There was no way. I didn't have time because I was doing all my initial, graduate program into investment banking and all these things. I didn't have time. There was no way. I was working too long. So I decided to get a mentor on top and pay more. And actually, because that helped me so well, and I, graduated in the top percentile in CFA, honestly, without the mentor telling me what to avoid, all the traps, his learnings, his mistakes, I went way quicker. I studied maybe 1/3 of the time of the other people and I beat them by far. And so that's when I created this program. I was like, I will have the mentorship. Now, of course, when I hired the best people, because that's what I want, I realized, oh, they're expensive. So I have to pass on some of that cost, right? There's no other way. So that's how I came about creating this. But hey, to be honest, the CFA made me over 8 figures. I'll just say it. Because without what I learned back then, I wouldn't be standing at the helm of this company today and teaching people and making a killing in crypto by applying the CFA principle. So I'm the living example that a program can change everything in your life.
Yeah.
What's the ROI on 3,000 euros invested for 8 figures? It's insane.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think even for me, right, I invested what $205,000 in MBA at Berkeley, and to be honest, like a lot of people, from the outside were like, well, you're already a physician. Like, what are you doing this for? And why are you spending $200,000? But in the end, I think knowledge is power, and I think especially if you can be part of a program and learn something that could really change your life, and I mean like change you and your family's life for decades to come. Why not? This is nothing, as an investment. So yeah.
Do you think it's part of our culture to see the cost and not as to see it as a cost and not as an investment? Because my mom, she's like, what are you doing all the time? And I'm like, Mom, you wouldn't understand.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Everything is viewed as a cost, but the thing is also, what is the alternative? The alternative is how can you win big, if you don't invest in yourself, right? I would not be fearful of the cost at this point. For me, it was more of a timing thing, right? But I think ultimately, yeah, the cost was scary, but at the same time, you got to have some level of risk appetite, and but it is nothing compared to what you can gain from this program. It's one of the best returns I've ever had, right, on an investment. And so far in just 2 months, I completed all the trainings. I learned multiple new investment strategies. I put them to action, and I've already recouped my initial cost. So this value isn't just financial. It's also mostly, confidence, it's clarity, it's the ability to move decisively in a market like this that's very fast paced. I think the cost is more.
I was not going to ask you because with the I have to be very careful with the FTC compliance and all these things. But if you said it, you said it.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
What's your view on sticking to traditional investments, 401k, IRA, and all these things that maybe a lot of Indian engineers or NRI engineers, IT professionals are sold as a big dream when they come to the US versus, actually taking control of your own destiny? What do you like? Would you be comfortable in staying in all those, like what I call old school products with the middle manager and stuff?
No, definitely not middle manager. Look, I worked with Edward Jones when I first, actually, for the last 3-4 years, until very recently, where I decided that I could not do anything with my money. I was being roadblocked everywhere I went. So I essentially fired them. I created an IRA LLC so I can manage my own money, and I set up a Kraken account to be able to a Kraken Pro account, which is to manage my retirement funds. And I'm now self-manage everything on my retirement side, and I have a Coinbase account for my personal. But I think the days of other people managing your money should be over. I mean, I'm also an MBA now. Like, if I'm not doing it, then
Yeah.
then, right? I have the ability. I think everyone has the ability to manage it. They just need the right support. And so I think the biggest risk of of not going outside traditional is standing still, right? They have their place, but I think they don't offer the kind of upside we're seeing in digital assets, and the whole world is changing. And you're the one who's advising us sort of on like, what are things that, what's new, what's coming out, how to avoid some traps and make sure that you're doing it carefully. But, being aware of what's happening is actually is access to information that I otherwise wouldn't have if I didn't join this program. So I think that's the other major advantage of being here. But yeah, I mean, I think everything has its place, but I think you have to be your own custodian. That's very critical.
Agreed. All right. Well, maybe a final word. You would say that, if someone is on the fence and is thinking about joining, what would you say? Like,
Look, I would say 100% do it. Do not hesitate. You will see on the other side when you join the program how impactful it can be to change your future. And, honestly, you don't know what you don't know. The mentors here, the company execs like yourself, you're all invested in our future and our learning. I don't think there's any other program out there that is doing this. And so 100% join the program, trust your gut, and go with it.
I agree. And do it at the right time for you as well. Thank you
Yes,
so much,
do it at the right time.
Anil. It
Thank you.
is, you might have helped a few people who, were obviously, in their fear or anything, maybe move along and maybe we can help them. So thank you so much. I mean, I have some chills, because that's why we do it. Like at this
Yeah,
point, look,
yeah,
at this
yeah.
point, I've made more money than I thought that I would. Of course, I want to make more. Like I'm trying to make more. Like there is no question about that. And I don't intend on stopping, right? But the point is you want to do it the right way by having success stories that you can say, hey, mom, like I've helped people and they respect me for what I bring to them in their lives. And like, this is the best thing. Like I sleep so well at night,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great. You make
Yeah.
money and you make other people money. Like it's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're using your knowledge and your skill set to help others and not just help yourself and your family, right? That's special. That's next level. That gives you so much more meaning. And yeah, I completely agree. And that's I can share that too, right? I'll just quickly mention, right, why I'm in psychiatry, right? I see major problems in mental health around the world. It's a global problem. And part of why I went into like administrative roles is because I want to expand my footprint. I don't want to just help the person sitting in front of me only necessarily. I want to help people in communities outside my own and states outside my own and countries outside my own. And that's kind of why I've kind of had this vision to use my skill set and knowledge to grow and change mental health care and how it's delivered. So I'm living in my own parallel world. We share this vision of making money and being successful, but my long-term, my North Star is being able to get to a spot where not only can I take care of my own family, but I can create programs and donate and charities and do all that to help the world. That's what I'm doing this for. So
It's awesome. All right. Well, Anil, thank you so much. And I guess we'll meet tomorrow again for the market update.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you, Dan.
All right. Thank you.
Right, bye. Have a good night.